Hello everyone, and welcome to the June tutorial for my 2026 tutorial series. This month we are painting this woodland mushroom, and I've provided the reference image and a link to the artist page below. This lesson will take place in 3 stages, and I am using a variety of materials to complete this, so you can screenshot and take note of those materials. The first stage is the sketch, and I have provided a screenshot here of the sketch. If you'd like to follow along, you can transfer that to your canvas or do it freehand. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share so that I am able to continue making these free tutorials for you all and sharing these videos with you. To prepare the canvas this week, I have toned the canvas with burnt sienna and Gamsol, and in order to do that, I actually thinned down the Gamsol to like a watercolor consistency. I brush it on with a large brush, and then I remove the excess paint. Once I have done that, I take charcoal and I sketch directly onto the canvas, and you can do this in a variety of ways. You can transfer the image, you can sketch directly onto the canvas, you can project the image, whatever is easiest for you. And then once I have done that, I like to fix the sketch on with some thinned down Gamsol and to kind of go in and make that outline more solid and more concrete. Some of you have asked why I do this, because it seems like I'm drawing the same thing twice, and there are a couple of reasons. The first is when I'm doing the sketch, I'm thinking about what elements from the image are most important and what elements I want to include in the image. So anytime you draw a reference from life, you're going to be making decisions about what you want to highlight and what you want to focus on in the painting and what you want to leave out. So the sketch helps me to do that. And then when I go in and I'm actually going over that sketch with paint, and I'm thinking through the form, the shapes, and where I want to start to put in those areas of darkness and those areas of light. Anytime you start in a new painting or an image, you want to think about your light source. You want to think about where your light's coming from and how that's going to affect the image with a reference image. This is really great because you have the reference image to use as you move forward as a guide, but you still want to think about where those areas of light and where those areas of dark are going to be. So I'm doing that by kind of putting blobs of where the foliage will be, thinking about where some of the plants will be, definitely the mushroom, and starting to look at where some of those shadows are going to rest in the image. Once you have finished the sketch, we will move into what's called the blocking stage. And the blocking stage is where we start to lay down those initial colors that will become the foundation for the painting and for the detail work that we will do in the painting. So for the blocking stage, we're thinking about kind of getting like a fuzzy image of what this will be. So it's not going to be super crisp and clean and have a lot of details for this stage. I'm laying down my initial color palette, which will consist of titanium white, Prussian blue, and yellow ochre. You'll notice that I'm not using any green in this palette, and that's because we will be mixing all of our greens using the Prussian blue and the yellow ochre. And then later when I go into the highlights, I'll add in a little bit of cadmium yellow, and that cadmium yellow will make the green just a bit brighter. I'm also going to add in a swipe of burnt sienna here, just to help me to desaturate the colors as I move forward if it's needed. And you'll see that just by mixing our own greens, we're going to come up with a really great range of greens to use. We can have really deep greens, we can have really bright greens, and they're going to be richer and have more variety than if we were to take a green directly out of the tube. So I always advocate for having a small palette and learning how to mix color, and I think that that gives the painting more variety and more of that kind of realistic look that many of us are going for. So to mix our first kind of base green here, I am just mixing in some Prussian Blue and some yellow ochre. And as I am mixing, anytime you see me kind of take the brush off the screen, bring it back, I have a small pot of Liquin Original, and I'm just barely dipping the tip of the brush into the Liquin Original, and that allows me to more easily spread the paint. It provides a medium. Some people like to use linseed oil. There are a variety of other mediums. I like the Liquid Original because it also helps the painting to dry a bit faster, and that can be really helpful if you're wanting to do a base layer and then come back and do detail work, or if you're working on a lot of paintings at one time, it can be helpful. So it's all about what you would like to do, and I recommend experimenting. If you do use the linseed oil, it takes a little bit longer to dry, and you just would need to allocate that into your process, and you'll know how long your painting is going to dry, and how many days or weeks you need between the different stages. This particular painting is done alla prima, which means we're going to do the painting all in one sitting. Completing a painting alla prima is a great way to practice and to get your skills down without investing a ridiculous amount of time in a painting when you're new to painting. And it's also great for when you just want to do a quick exercise, as well. As you learn and as you grow in your skills, you'll want to spend more time with your paintings, but starting with the alla prima technique is a really great way to learn basic skills, how the paint moves, how to put the paint down on canvas, and who you are as a painter as well. So I highly recommend starting with alla prima paintings because it's a great way to kind of have that finished project that you can be proud of as you are learning and as you are trying out these various skills. So you can see here that I'm getting a variety of greens. Some of them are more to the yellow and some of them are more to the blue, depending on how much paint I am mixing. And I am a painter, I've mentioned this in past tutorials, who likes to mix as I go instead of pre-mixing large bits of paint because it gives me more variation and it gives me more control over the different colors. You're going to find that naturally as you mix these various colors, they're going to change slightly and they're going to be a bit different each time, and that will give a lot of beauty and a lot of variety to the painting. So I recommend, especially for small paintings like this that are on an 8x10 canvas board, to mix in these small batches. And it's okay if you need to add more paint, and it's okay if you need to continue to mix these piles, because it's also going to give you a lot of practice in color mixing as well, and you can try new things and see what you like, see how you react to the colors. I'm also working on the background first because the mushroom is going to be the focal point of this painting. That's what the eye is going to be drawn to. That's what the eye is going to focus on with the red cap and the white stem. So I want to get the background in first because the background is going to inform how I mix my colors for the mushroom. So I am actually going to start moving into some darker areas of foliage. I have this kind of darker mid-tone in, and in order to do that at this point, I am mixing in a small amount of Mars Black to darken that green ever so slightly. Now, there are some artists who say don't ever use black, and there are a variety of reasons for this. I like to use the Mars Black because the Mars Black tends towards the blue, so it's not a true black. And it does really, really nice mixing in with the green. You can actually also mix yellow ochre and Mars Black together, and you're going to get a really beautiful green as well. And you're going to see I'll play with that in just a little while. But I'm continuing to add in these areas of foliage, just looking at the painting and thinking about where these kind of little tufts of grass are, and mimicking as best as I can to the painting, and of course making any adjustments that I would like. And then once I start to add in this Mars Black, we're going to see that we have yet another kind of green color variation going on. And if you go out and you look in nature, you're going to notice that not all of the greens in your yard or at the park or wherever it is that you like to enjoy nature are the same green. There are so many different variations of green, depending on the plant, depending on where it's resting in the shadows, depending on the light source. And thinking about that is going to really help you to kind of think about how the light informs the texture of the piece and the form of the piece. So I'm taking my Mars Black and I'm going directly into the background, and I'm adding in the darkest darks. I normally add in darkest darks first, but for this one I wanted to be sure that I had some areas of the plant life and the foliage in first, so that the dark didn't overpower. If you look at that original image, you'll notice that there is a lot of darkness at the top, in the corners, and at the bottom. And I wanted to be able to kind of blend that darkness in to the other colors of the background. So now I'm going in and I'm establishing those darks, and that's going to help me moving forward as I establish more of the green. It's always a good idea to make the edges of your painting just a little bit darker, because that's going to help to focus the eye into the focal point of your painting, and that is going to be the mushroom for this painting. You'll also notice that I did not put the mushroom exactly in the middle of the painting. This is something that sometimes we want to do, especially when we're thinking about composition and learning about composition for the first time, but it makes it slightly more interesting to have it just off to the side. It makes it look a little bit more organic. And of course, I'm also taking the composition of the reference image as well into consideration, because I'm thinking about, okay, what really drew me to this reference image, and the placement of the mushroom worked really, really well for me. I'm adding in a bit of burnt sienna here to round out that black, make it a bit more brown. And here on the bottom is where I'm thinking about how I will start to incorporate the soil. The reference image shows a really nice kind of mulchy, woody soil, that kind of soil that you find in the forest that has all the good bits of plant matter and richness to it. And so I don't want to have straight black here. I want to think about how I'm going to build on top of this with different colors to give the soil a bit more dimension. And so in order to do that, I'm slowly phasing out the black. I'm adding a little bit of black in, but more burnt sienna each time I kind of move up into the painting. And you want to do this slowly, because you want the colors to blend together. You don't want to have just like a straight line. This is black and then this is brown, but you want to have these colors blend together so it looks very natural, and so the viewer doesn't take note of it. And that's what's going to help to make the painting more successful. So I'm just adding in this brown color around the blobs of green that are the very, very beginning stages of the foliage in this painting. And I'm also thinking about how I can continue to put in that color variation to think about where the aspects of shadow and light will be. You're going to see that I will put in more of the dark brown on the other side of the mushroom, because this is the part that's going to be in shadow. The sun is kind of beaming right down on the mushroom in the middle of the painting, and everything else is just going to fade into the background. Now that I have the majority of the brown, I'm going to go back in and start to develop that dark black in the corner of the painting. And I kind of went back and forth on how dark I wanted this. And if I hadn't put the constraints of an hour and a half and doing al prima, I would probably go back and add more detail into this corner. So keep that in mind as you're following along. You might want to add a bit more foliage here, but overall, I'm pleased with how having this area of dark in the upper corner draws the eye into the mushroom. So you'll see that we have some very loose green blobs of different ranges, and we have our darkest blacks and our browns, and this is a really good place to start with the base coat for the background. What I'm going to do now is take a blending brush, and I was just checking to make sure there was nothing on the brush, and I'm going to very, very carefully blend together these areas so that I don't see any of the canvas anymore. I don't want to have any areas of the canvas exposed in the blocking stage, because this isn't something I want to go back and worry about dealing with when I get to the detail stage. So I'm very, very carefully taking that blending brush and just blending the edges together to beat out some of the brush strokes, and also to make sure that there are no areas of the canvas. It also helps to give soft edges between the different elements of the painting, and that's just a nice way to have the painting look a bit more organic and a bit more cohesive and pulled together. If you need to, as you're blending, you're going to notice that even though you're barely touching the canvas, you're still picking up a bit of paint. You can always wipe the blending brush out on a shop towel and then come back and do a bit more blending. I actually have a pretty bright light shining on the painting. It was a bit of a stormy, not wintry, but a stormy day. And so I wanted to be sure that I had enough light, and there's a little bit of a glare here, so you can see the brush strokes a bit more than you can when you're actually looking with the naked eye. But the goal is to get those brush strokes out and to blend the edges together as much as you can. And I'm also paying some attention to the edges with the black as well, but I'll do those last because the black will get onto the blending brush and you don't want to be moving that black around the painting too much. When I'm happy with the blending, I'm going to go in and start to work on the mushroom. And I've actually, I don't normally do this, but I went in and I got it's like a makeup brush, like you would put blush on, just to beat out some more of those brush strokes. So now I'm moving forward with the mushroom cap itself. And in order to do this, I am mixing Cadmium Red. And I want to have a couple of different values for the Cadmium Red. So I want to have a dark, a medium, and a light at least. But of course, when you're mixing in small batches, you're going to have slight variations, which will make the painting more interesting. So I'm mixing the Cadmium Red with a bit of burnt sienna, and this is going to bring a more rich, kind of almost a rust tone. I'm also putting a very, very, very small amount of the blue in, and that's going to help to darken that up by bringing some of that a little bit of a shadow tone to the mushroom. And of course, just as I was with the previous steps, I'm using just a small amount of Liquin to help to spread the paint on the canvas. When I approach the mushroom, the first thing that I'm thinking about is where my darkest areas are going to be. So I've added the little bit of blue, I've added the little bit of burnt sienna into the Cadmium Red, and I almost have almost like a bluish brown, and that is going to be my darkest edge. So this will be the edge for the shadow. I'm also deciding that it's not really as dark as I'd like it to, so I'm mixing in a bit more of that blue. And as you put the paint down on the canvas, you're going to be comparing it to the background, you're going to be comparing it to the other elements of the painting. So don't be afraid if you put that first swatch down and it doesn't look exactly right. Don't be afraid to mix it a little darker or a little bit lighter and apply it again. The wonderful thing about oil paint is if it goes wrong or if it goes south, you can always wipe it off and start again. And when you're working with small amounts of paint and when you're experimenting in this way and putting small amounts of color down, it's very easy to go back over and to adjust those colors as you move forward. So when you're learning, when you're trying things out, don't be afraid of making mistakes, because mistakes are how we learn. And even when a painting is difficult because it's not doing exactly what you want, you're still learning about how to troubleshoot and how to move forward with your painting. So as you can see here, I'm just continuing to add in some of this dark color. I'm thinking about where those shadows will be. So this particular mushroom has these kind of white bumps all over it, and I'm sure somebody knows exactly what the name for those white bumps are, so you can always share that in the comments if you'd like. But I'm thinking about how the light would be hitting that. So the white bump itself is going to be the brightest, and then where it comes out, there's going to be a bit of shadow underneath to show that it's raised up off the mushroom. So I'm going to think about how I want to put in the dark colors underneath where these bumps are to show that there is depth and to show that there is form with these different bumps. So I'm also taking more of a pure red, and it's not exactly pure. It still has the different colors mixed in. And I'm starting to fill out the top of the mushroom around where those bumps will be. Some painters will paint the entire cap red, and then they'll go back and add in those details. Since we're working with Alla Prima, I find it best to try to get the color approximately on the canvas with the color that you'd like, and then refine it later, rather than doing tons and tons of layers. That can be really helpful when you're letting it dry between stages, or if you want to use a specific glazing technique. But here I'm just kind of painting around where those white bumps will be, and that's helping me to build up the form of the mushroom. So as you continue to paint, just think about, where is my brightest area going to be, which is going to be in the middle of the mushroom, where my darkest area is going to be, which will be on the sides of the mushroom. And as you put the darkness into the sides and the brightness into the middle, you're going to start having a more rounded effect. It's going to start looking more round as you play with those areas of light and those areas of darkness. At this point, I have the majority of the mushroom covered, and you can see that I have the brightest part in the middle of the mushroom and the darkest parts on the side. But I want to go ahead and go in and add just a bit more darkness by mixing in some Mars Black, and that's going to help me to really bring out the areas of shadow under those white nubs and along the side of the mushroom. And that Mars Black will tend towards the blue when you use it in small amounts, but be very careful of how much you use, because it will tend to take over the palette. So as you're learning the colors and as you're experimenting with these colors, just take a small little bit of Mars Black to mix into your other piles so that it does not overpower them. I'm adding in these areas of shadow directly under these white bumps, and you can see that immediately as soon as we put in that subtle shadow, it starts to lift the form of the bump off of the mushroom cap, and it starts to give it a bit more dimension. And you want to have it, underneath. Think about where the light is hitting. Think about where the shadow would naturally be cast by the form. But don't agonize over it. Just give each one kind of a swipe or a line underneath, and that will start to kind of bring that form together. And it will also start to give that illusion of something more realistic. I'm also thinking about how the mushroom cap is sitting on the stem and adding in a little bit of shadow underneath here. And I'm also taking the brush and I'm fuzzing up that line, or blending out that line between the mushroom and the background just a teeny bit, so that it's not a harsh line and it's more of a soft edge, and that helps to set the mushroom within the environment as well. So once I have the mushroom cap more or less colored the way that I would like, and you see we have our variety of lights and darks with the reds and the pinks, I'm going to start to work on those bumps and the stem. When you are painting, and this is one of the reasons why I love using a limited color palette, when you are painting, you want to be sure to bring colors from all areas of the painting together. So we've used blues and yellows in the background, and I'm going to bring those blues to the mushroom stem to give the illusion of shadow, and I'm going to bring some of the blues as well to the nubs, but I'm also thinking about how I can keep those as pure white as possible. So I'm first starting with this kind of bluish white where I've just put a smallest little bit of blue into the white. I'm using a smaller round brush. Use what you have. You can make it work without having to buy a specialty brush. And I'm putting down that kind of base color for these nubs. And I'll go back and I will put white, my whitest white bright highlights towards the end of the session. But right now I'm just wanting to get that color in. I'm also putting in this kind of blue or white because when I go in and I put in those highlights, that's going to give even more form and dimension to these bumps. So the bumps will have bumps themselves. And again, we'll have to figure out what that name is for these little white bumps on the mushroom. And so I also want to think about how this color is going to translate to the stem. So I'm keeping that in mind. And I've also decided as I go back and kind of look at the reference and look at the image that I didn't have enough of these bumps or these little notches in the mushrooms. So I am adding a few more. And this is where it becomes really important to kind of have some restraint, because when you put these bumps down, you're going to want to put them in a specific pattern. You're going to want to have them look similar, just because that's the way we kind of see things. We automatically order things with our brain when we see them. But try to make these random. Look at the image. Make sure that you're putting different amounts of space between them. Make sure that you're turning your paintbrush so that they don't all have the exact same stroke. I like to kind of put a stroke down, and then I'll flip my hand over the other way, and then I'll put a stroke down, and then I'll flip it back the next. And that helps to just kind of make sure there's more variation. I also, as you can see, I'm kind of wiping my brush out when it's picking up the color from the mushroom. I'm adding in more white to get a bit more of that pure kind of dirty white in. And sometimes it can be helpful to use different brushes for lights and darks. I just find that kind of going slowly and wiping my brush out really helps with that, because when doing the alla prima, you're naturally going to pick up those other colors. And you can see in my pile of white here that I have mixed red in. It's starting to get a little bit too pink, and when it does that, I'll wipe my brush out. I'll put some more white in, and then we kind of go from there. But I just decided that adding more of these bumps in and having more variety was going to be more true to the reference image. So I wanted to take the time to make sure I was adding these in. Once I have the bumps where I'd like them, I'm going back and adjusting those shadows just a little bit to add in lines where I've either unintentionally blended them out, or adding the shadow back in for the new white splotches that I've put on. But once I feel that I am happy and that it looks basically the way that I would like it, I can go on to blocking in the last area of this painting, which is the stem. And we want to be sure, as I mentioned, that we're pulling our colors together. So I'm using a bit of the Mars Black, I'm using a bit of the Prussian Blue to create this kind of really rich blue-black color that's going to serve as our shadows. If you notice in nature, when you look at a shadow, it's never true black, it's never true gray. It's always got kind of a hint of blue or purple mixed in with the other colors. So what I'm doing here is I'm just creating a quick swipe with the blue to start to get a shadow color on the canvas that I can then blend into the stock to give it a bit of a form. And I'm also taking the opportunity to, as I'm blending this shadow in, fuzzing up those edges so that I have a nice soft edge. And I'm adjusting the color, putting a little bit more black in because I think it was just a little bit too blue in those initial stages. And I'm thinking about how the mushroom is blocking the light or creating a shadow for the stem. Mushrooms in nature are pretty wonky, so be very giving of yourself and have fun with creating the stem. Don't strive for perfection. Don't strive for completely straight lines, because nature is varied, it's beautiful, and it's never perfect. Nature's never 100% perfect. So if your mushroom looks like it's leaning or is a little bit slanted, just take that as the personality of your mushroom and don't agonize over it too much, especially since you put the background in. Now I'm wanting to bring in a bit of that yellow color as well, not too much, but just adding a hint of that yellow color into the white so that I can have a bit of a unity. I'm picking up the yellows that I've mixed into the green as well as the yellows that are present in red, and I am adding these in to give a bit more depth in the middle of the stem. And once I have these base colors down, I'm going to go and put a little bit more variation into the stem as well by giving it some kind of bumps and some texture. But this yellow is a great way to kind of start the base and to marry the different colors that I've used throughout the painting. Just as with the mushroom cap, we want to think about how we can make the stalk look round. And one way to do this is by having the lightest part in the middle and having areas of shadow on the side. And that's naturally going to trick the eye into thinking that there's a roundness of form there. So they don't have to be equally the same amount of shadow on each side, because obviously one side of the mushroom is darker than the other, but you do want to have some darkness on the other side of the mushroom stem as well. And so you'll see me go in and put this here, and we will add just a hint of kind of that reflected light of the sunlight at the end in the detail stages. But right now we want to be thinking about how we can have the lightest part in the middle and the darkest part on the sides. You'll see here that as I'm laying down this bluish white, I'm blending it in with these areas of dark. And what I'm trying to do is give the illusion of a really soft transition between the shadow and between the center part of the mushroom, or the part of the mushroom that would be in the light. And so you might have to play with this a little bit. I made it a little bit too light, so you're going to see that I'll go in and I'll add a bit more of the shadow back in, but already you can see how it's starting to appear as if light is casting a shadow on the stem. I've wiped out my brush, and now I'm going back in and I'm trying to get a brighter white, or a lighter kind of gray white, and I am thinking about where the light is hitting and putting that area of brightness in, and I will blend everything together on the stem to make the progression of colors a bit more natural. With blending, especially with oils, one of the wonderful benefits of using oil as opposed to another medium is that you can finesse and play with the colors once they're on the canvas. So once we have these colors down, we can go in and we can move between the colors and create these areas of blending. We can add more colors in and kind of audition them with what's on the canvas. So again, just as you were with the mushroom cap, don't be afraid to play and don't be afraid to experiment, because you can always wipe it off and start over. And this is an alla prima, which means we're really focused on the exercise and the skill building. And when we're focused on the exercise and the skill building, it becomes fun to experiment, because we don't know what paint's going to do until we try. And you can follow a million tutorials step by step, every step of the way, and make it look exactly like the model. But what you're really wanting to do is give yourself the opportunity to play, the opportunity to experiment, and to see what paint does when you're in these different situations, so that when you're making a painting that you're spending more time on, you can make better informed decisions about how you want to move forward with your painting. So you can see I've blended these areas of color in. I've also started to bring dark in to add a little bit of texture. And now I am going in with a brighter white and just kind of adding some little notches or bumps. I still want to think about the light and the dark and where the shadow will hit. So if I've put in those darker notches, I want to put my light notches just on the top, so that it gives that appearance of form, just like we did with the bumps on the top of the mushroom cap. So just follow that kind of rule. The shadow will be where the light is less, and the brightest part is going to be where the light is hitting. So think about the mushroom, think about where it is in relation to the sun or whatever the light source is, and just kind of try to mimic that. If you stick to these rules about areas of dark and areas of light, it's going to help you to create that form. And I'm going in and I'm adding just a bit more of the shadow. And in order to create this light shadow, I've pulled out the blue-black mixture and I've just added it in. So it's really kind of like a dirty white or a dirty gray. And by mixing in small colors, you can see I'm starting to get a lot of different color variation on my palette from this very limited 5-color now palette. I'm going to add just a few more details as we finish up with the color blocking stage. The next area that I want to address is the foliage, and I want to do that before I put details on the mushroom, because for me it's important to bring the painting up together. So now we've got all the color blocking in. Now we want to think about, okay, well, now how can we sharpen up those details in the background and bring the background into better focus, so that when we get to the mushroom, we're setting the mushroom in more organically with the details that we add. So the first thing I'm thinking about is the soil. And right now we just kind of have these big splotches of black and brown and like dark brown and a little bit of light brown. And I'm thinking about how we can start to give that soil texture. When you look at the image for the reference, there are like little bits of twigs and little bits of leaves and all of these like decomposing elements. And so what I'm doing is I'm mixing in with some of the red that I have. I'm mixing in a little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of burnt sienna, just to get kind of this rusty orange color. And then I'm going in with a dagger brush, but you could use a round brush for this too. You don't need to use a dagger brush. And I'm just kind of putting little slashes in to indicate where different types of plant matter would be laying on the ground. Now, I'm not being too terribly careful or trying to get every little detail like it is in the reference image, because for an alla prima painting, that just wouldn't be possible. But I'm trying to get the feel of the original, and I'm thinking about the marks as I'm making them, in that I want to be turning my brush, I want to turn my dagger brush, I want to turn my hand, I want to have them coming in different directions, at different slants. We don't want to have like 3 slants that all look exactly the same, because our eye is going to pick up that pattern. So we want to try to give it the appearance of randomness as you move forward. So just kind of think about that. Have some straight up and down, some kind of leaning horizontally, some leaning vertically, and play with that. And then as you continue to add these slashes, just make slight changes or variations in the color, because you'll notice that when you look at leaves on the ground in the fall that are decomposing, you're going to have lots of different colors of brown and lots of different colors of orange and lots of different colors of red and yellow. And so adding in a little bit more ochre, a little bit more burnt sienna, or a little bit more red is going to change the color of this orange brown ever so slightly. Don't put white in yet, because white will tend to overpower and it will blend up. And I'm even going to bring in some of the pink that I used on the mushroom cap once again, because adding in these colors bringing the different elements of color from other areas of the painting is going to help to unify the painting. So adding these little bits in, making some darker, making some lighter is going to be really important to giving us the feel or the dimension of this decomposing material. Kind of buffing them into the painting just to soften them up and set them back into the painting. And you're going to see this is going to create kind of the illusion as the paint blends with the background of having a bit more texture by softening these out. Once I have the basic background here for the soil, I want to start thinking about how I am going to approach the plants and how I'm going to start to build up the form on the plants. So we have this basic kind of green color in, and I want to start to think about how I can add midtones and highlights. So I'm going to do that by mixing our blue again. This time I am mixing a bit more yellow ochre and a little small amount of cadmium yellow just to brighten that up. And as I add this to the canvas, this lighter color is going to start to pick up some of the tones of the dark. So you'll see that as I add in these various colors, I'm going to continue mixing the color just as I have with all of the other stages. And that's going to give me some really great and interesting variation to the foliage as well. So once I feel I have a good kind of mid-tone here, using mostly yellow ochre, a little bit of cadmium yellow, and some of that blue, I'll go in and start adding the mid-tones in, and that's where we're going to start to see the foliage transform from these kind of blobs into actual leaves or kind of tufts of vegetation. And just like with the other steps, what we're looking for here is to be kind of quick and loose with our brush strokes and to avoid making any kind of repetition. So I'm starting by kind of adding it to the outside of these blobs. There were some areas where I wanted to add in a bit more vegetation than what I had, so I'm kind of going in and putting some random blobs of this mid-tone as well. And just very quickly dabbing the brush back and forth. I'm not really leaving the brush on the canvas for an extended amount of time. I'm not really thinking too deeply about the pieces themselves. And you can see that it will start off very bright. And then as I kind of work down the form or work down the image, it's starting to pull up the colors from the background, which give it that a bit of interest, and it gives it that more realistic look because we're seeing the colors blend together. If your brush gets too dirty, just stop, wipe it out. You can mix a bit more paint or a bit more brights into your paint, and that will be helpful to you kind of in keeping your colors brighter. But you want some of this variation because this is what's going to make the brush appear as if it has that form and that dimension, and that you have shadows and that you have different individual leaves without having to go in and paint every single individual leaf. If you were doing a photorealistic painting, you could definitely take more time. You could use different colors and paint the individual leaves, but for this alla prima, we just want that impression. We want that idea, because that's what's going to make the mushroom appear more real, is by having this kind of idea foliage below. So I don't want to stamp out, and I don't want to cover over all of the dark that I've done, because we need those areas of dark to make the areas of light shine and to make the areas of light brighter. But we do want to have enough to where we can kind of think about what's in shadow and what is being hit by the sunlight, as we have with all of the elements of this painting. There's going to be more sunlight on the bottom by the mushroom, and it's going to get fuzzier towards the back. And this is where I have this kind of darker area of color. And when I show the finished image, you'll be able to see this a little bit better, but I'm just kind of barely adding in a little bit of color and little swatches of color to the top, because I don't want it to get too bright and I don't want it to distract the eye from the mushroom. If you look at the reference image, it does kind of blur and fade out and toward the back. It's not completely like a bokeh, but it's approaching that. So we're really not spending too much time with this foliage in the back. Just be sure as you move forward, try to avoid making patterns, try to avoid making all of the brush strokes look exactly the same. Turn your hand, roll the brush in your hand so that you're getting different shapes with your brush, and move quickly. Moving quickly is one of the best ways to avoid patterns and to avoid repetition, because just that quick, simple movement is going to help to get that variation. And so once you feel that you've got your mid-tones in, you can go back in and start to add in more brightness. And you might also decide that you want more or less foliage in your painting. So this would be the time when you would add any additional tufts of color, If you want to plant any more of the kind of leaf matter, this would be the time to go in and add that. So be sure that as you're working, you're taking a step back, you're looking at your painting and thinking about it, and that you are giving yourself time to not just look at the details, but you're looking at the whole painting. Some people like to get up from the canvas, walk away. I have a rolling chair, so I kind of like to roll back and look at it every 15 or 20 minutes or so. Some artists like to take a photo with the phone and then look at it on the phone image, or use a mirror. And all of these things are just kind of tricking us into seeing it in a new way, so that we're seeing the entire painting and not just one little area of detail. Now I am starting to add in a bit more cadmium yellow. I'm starting to add in a little bit of white. And I cautioned earlier, just be careful when you start using white, because it can tend to overpower, but it's really, really great for getting that brightest color. And what I really want here is this brightest color. And you might be thinking yellow, that doesn't really make sense, but what it's going to do is it's going to mix in with the other colors on the canvas. It's going to pick up some of those other colors, and it's not going to stay this super bright yellow. It's going to mix into kind of this like lighter, brighter green. And you can see here that just by having the dark, the mid-tone, and the bright, we're getting quite a bit of form on these, and they're starting to look more realistic. They're not as distracting as they were. Think about also how the mushroom is setting against the foliage. You can see that right up against the mushroom cap on the side, I have green on both sides. And in a little while, I'm going to go in and I'm going to add some darkness there, because I wanted to have a bit more shadow underneath the mushroom. So you'll see that I do that. So think about how the colors are kind of playing together, and you don't want to have anything that's going to distract from the mushroom itself, because that is the highlight of the piece. And that is really that focal point and what we want the reader to be focusing on. So I'm adding in just a bit more. I want to have that kind of scraggly underbrush, small plant sprouting feel all around the mushroom. So I want to add in some of these colors, and I will come in every once in a while and just kind of knock back some of these colors. So a great way to do that is using a shop towel, and you can pick up some of the excess oil on the painting, and it also kind of blurs or mixes the colors together. I mentioned this in past tutorials, but this is a tip that I got from watching Kevin Hill's videos, and so I like to share it with everyone, and I always like to give him credit because it's really awesome, and it's a really great way, especially for any kind of plant matter, to blend the colors together. I went a little bit too bright here, so I'm just taking some of the Mars Black, I'm taking a little bit of the blue, and trying to add some of that dark and some of that brown back into the painting. And any time that you feel that you've gone too dark or you've gone too bright, you can always balance it out by adding more dark into the painting. Just be careful, because if you do this too many times, or go back and forth too many times, it can start to muddy up the colors, and we want to avoid that. If you do feel that your painting is getting really muddy, you can always stop and come back to it the next day, and that will help for some of the colors to set. Now that we have all of the basic colors in, we've got all of the blocking in, we've started to get a little bit of the form, we're going to start to really work in the details. And that's what we're going to spend the last 30 minutes or so doing on this painting. And so the first thing I'm going to do is mix a pure white, and I'm going to go in and add that pure white highlight to the mushroom cap and the little nubs on the mushroom cap. And as I mentioned earlier, you can see that this helps to add even more dimension, because it makes the nubs appear to have more texture themselves. So I'm thinking again about the light. I'm thinking about where the light is hitting, and I'm just adding a small little swipe of color on the nubs where it would make sense, where the light is hitting them. But I also want to be sure that I'm not adding so much white that I take away all of the work we did in building the form with the kind of grayish white, the bluish white, the areas of shadow. So just be very sparing with this white highlight, because it can very quickly erase all of that kind of fine work that we did in the blocking stage with being sure that we have color and being sure that we have variation. So take your time and just kind of assess where those highlights would be, but don't color the entire nub because it will make it look flat. And if you feel like you have put in too much white, you can always go back in and put a little bit more blue, of the blue white, or even the Mars black to help with that. I'm very happy at this stage with how these little nubs are looking, and I'm happy with how the foliage is looking, and now I just want to add those details that's going to bring everything together in the painting. So I'll continue to kind of add in these little highlights. There were also some areas where I wanted just really, really small little dots, and I'm also thinking about the form of some of these, and I just want to be sure that I have a variety and that they look natural. So you'll see some of them I'm kind of extending, some of them I'm rounding out a little bit, and that's just because I'm trying to the best of my ability to avoid having a specific pattern and looking at that reference image and not trying to copy detail for detail, but emulate the feel of that reference image with these little nubs here. As I'm working on the last 15 minutes or so of this painting, I'm continuing to kind of play with the colors and blend and think about where I want my areas of darkness to be, where I want my areas of light to be. I'm mixing in a bit more cadmium blue to bring some more, I'm mixing. As I'm moving forward, I am thinking about how I can continue to add in those highlights and those areas of color and those areas of dark. I'm mixing in the Prussian Blue. I'm playing with some straight Cadmium Yellow to bring in the brightest of the bright highlights. I'm also sometimes adding in a little bit of white. And I struggled a bit with this area that I've mentioned underneath the mushroom cap right next to the stalk. And it took me a minute to figure out exactly what was going on. And I left this in because I wanted to show how these alla prima practices and these alla prima exercises really can help us to develop our eye as an artist, because I knew something was wrong here. I kind of went and I thought, oh, well, maybe I needed to dial back some of the details because it was competing with the stock. It just didn't look right. So I'm blending, and I go back and forth between adding details and blending in these last 10 minutes or so. But it was really that area right next to the stalk that I was focused on. And I noticed that the brightness of that bush was competing with the stalk of the mushroom. So it wasn't until I added in dark, I added in light, I took out dark, I took out light, that I finally took a break and I stood up and I went across the studio and I looked at the easel, and then it kind of hit me. It was like, yes, it's competing. The colors are too close together. It's not adding enough depth. And so I start to think about how I'm going to fix that. And it does take me a little bit of time before I come to the conclusion that I just kind of need to wipe it off and start over. And so you're going to see here that I am going to attempt to wipe off that area. I'm going to bring the dark back in. And then once I've done that, and once I've eliminated that bright patch right in the middle of the painting, it's going to unify the pieces a bit more. And so in these next few minutes, I'm just going to show you kind of my back and forth process for doing that, and how I finally come to the conclusion of bringing that dark in. So this is what I'll be doing here, and you will see that as I continue to blend out and as I continue to add that dark in, it sharpens up the other elements of the painting. Once I finally figured out what it was that was bothering me with the piece, I go back in, I add in that black, and now I just want to make that little space of black look more organic to the painting, so it's not just a swatch of black there. So I am bringing back some more of these highlights and adding a few little leaves here to bring this little bit of plant over the shadow. And I'm also going to add just a few little swipes of a mid-tone in the shadow itself so that it appears that there is something behind the shadow, so something that you could kind of peer into. We don't want just this kind of cavernous hole right in the middle of the painting. We want to set it in so that it makes sense, and adding in these layers works really well. So you can see I'm just doing that with just a few barely stripes of color, just to give it the illusion that there is something there, that there is another plant behind the mushroom that you can peep with in that shadow. I'm going back over and making just these last few adjustments here in the last 5 minutes or so of this painting. And this is where it's really important to step back, to take the time to look at your painting. A lot of times these last 10 to 5 minutes are where you're going to add in the majority of the detail that make a difference for the viewer, but it can also be a place where you add in details that will take away as well. So give yourself time, look at your painting, think through it before you kind of rush to make any additions, because it's very hard to take them out at this last little bit. So I'm thinking about texture and where I can kind of highlight or add in a bit more of these shadows. And I've decided that I want to put a bit more texture in the stock just to give it some more bumps and variation on the surface. And so I'm adding in these areas of shadow, and I'll come back over and also add in areas of highlight. Just remember that as you do that, you want to think about where the light is falling, think about where the light would hit so that it makes sense within the painting itself. I'm also thinking about how the mushroom is sitting in the painting, and I want to be sure to integrate that more smoothly. So I'm adding a bit of darkness and a bit of shadow onto the bottom of the stalk so that it is sitting more naturally in the plant matter, in the leaves or the mulching or whatever it is here that it's sitting in. And as I'm adding in this dark line, I don't want to just put a dark swipe and then move on. I want to be sure that I am blending this very dark kind of low light, I guess it would be here, into both areas. So I'm bringing some of the white down and blending it together, and I'm also bringing the black into the brown, so that we have this kind of natural inset for the mushroom. And if you look at plants and the way that plants grow out of the ground, it's never just like a straight line. There's always going to be some variation. I'm knocking back a few of these details with the blending brush, and with this painting I really have gone back and forth with the blending brush more than I normally do, and this shows you why it's so important to stand back and to really think about some of these changes before you make them in the last part of the painting. But I just really wanted the middle of the painting to be the sharpest and to have this kind of hazy effect in the back. If you guys have watched to this point, thank you so much. I'm coming up on the last 4 or so minutes of details here. I'm just turning out the light so I can see what it looks like without that super bright light shining on it. As I mentioned, it was a really kind of stormy day. It was very gray and cloudy, so I had to have this light on in the studio, and it caused a bit of a glare. But if you look at my reference image, you can kind of see how this background fades out. And again, thank you for watching to this point. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and share so that I can continue making these videos and sharing my process with you. I really enjoy helping you by sharing what I've learned. I've learned to paint. I'm self-taught from watching different videos, watching different tutorials, and just a lot of experimentation. If you look back on my YouTube channel, you can see some of my early paintings where I'm just learning the process, and some of them are pretty rough, but you know, I still love them because it's still a part of my painting journey. So I wanted to be open and honest with my painting journey, just to show you that the more you practice, the more your skills increase, the better your paintings get, the more happy you're going to be with your paintings. And I'm still very much in that process myself, and I look forward to looking back and seeing where I'm going to be next year as well with continued practice. So I wanted to share this process with you because everybody who wants to paint should paint. Don't let fear of not being good enough or fear of not knowing what you're doing stop you from picking up that paintbrush. It's so important to just get started and to just try and to just let the journey kind of take you where it's going to take you. I had decided that the front was a little bit bare, so I'm going back in and I'm adding a bit more plant matter here at the front. And if you add in something at the end in this way, just make sure that you follow those kind of rules that we set up when we were doing the blocking. You want to have an area of dark, you want to have a middle tone, and you want to have a light, just to give that variation. And what that's going to do is it's going to help to make the additions look like they were put in with the rest of the painting rather than put in at the very end. So if I had cleaned off my palette already and I went back in, the greens would be different. So that's why it's always a good idea to take a break, to adjust, and to see what you want to add. And I feel that once I've put in this kind of additional few sprigs of plants here, it really does help to bring the composition together, and then just kind of blending out those edges just a bit, just a little touch, a little dash, so that I don't have anything that is too sharp here in the final bits. If you have painted along, I would love to see what you're working on. You can tag me on TikTok or you can tag me on Instagram. The links are in my profile here on YouTube. If you have any questions, you can post them in the comments below, or you can reach out to me by message. I would love to do my best to answer your questions and help you as you move forward in your painting journey. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your painting along with me today. And I look forward to bringing another tutorial next month. If you have an idea for something that you'd like to see as a tutorial, please do let me know. I have the next few tutorials planned, but there are 6 tutorials left in 2026. So if you have an idea, I'd love to take a look at it and see if perhaps I could make that into a tutorial for you guys. So let me know what you'd like to see, and I can definitely try my best to paint that for you. But again, I have a playlist of the first 6 tutorials that you can paint along with to continue to practice. I will be posting 1 new tutorial each month and continuing to share with you all. We have a poodle, an orange, some paper boats, an elephant, and we also have a bluebird, as well as the mushrooms. So there are a good variety of different types of shapes and projects to paint. So here we have the final mushroom. I'm very happy with how it came out for an Alla Prima painting, and we did this in 1 hour. Here we are comparing it to the reference, and I feel like we got the essence of the painting here. It was very much inspired. Thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Have happy painting. Bye, everyone.